the question that we've been asked is, how do I do forms for British Columbia? The answer is very simple. First thing is you need to set yourself up. To do that, you go into the settings panel and you basically state that you work in the province of British Columbia as a lawyer or the legal professional. From there, you say that you work in BC, and the minute you say that, it sets you up you for the forms. Then after that, you need to create a matter. So what I did here is I created a client called Frederick Brown, and it's a tenant eviction matter. He's a landlord, right? I created that, and now I need to go into the additional parties and start adding parties for that form. So first thing what I do is I created a few fake contacts. So I created Emma Brown, that she is in Richmond, BC. And I also created another guy by name Richard Brown, who is her husband and who also lives in the same address. So let's say they are the two tenants. So what you can do is go into the matter and then add them as tenants. So I can say add party, and then what you do is that brings you down to this drop box, and you can say tenant Emma Brown and add her as a tenant. Then what you can do is you can also add another tenant who is basically Richard Brown, right? So say tenant Brown, and you should have Richard Brown. So Emma and Richard, who are basically husband and wife, have been added as tenant. Frederick is obviously the landlord, and you are his representative. So if you click now on court forms like landlord and tenant board, it'll give you a lot of forms. So let's say you want the CT form, you can search here. So you can say hyphen, there you go, and pick it. Once you pick that form, you need to indicate whether you are representing the landlord or the tenant. In this case, Fred is a landlord, so you click on the landlord and you will hit the download button. When you hit the download button, it downloads the form. Let's see what it does. So that's your form, and it starts filling in information. It didn't fill the file number, and I'll tell you why in a second, but it did say 81 King Street, Richmond, BC is the tenant's address, which is Emma's address. It filled in your name and it said, hey, you are the agent who's representing Fred. And then immediately it went and said, hey, the two tenants who are the opponents are Emma and Richard. And it also filled in at the end your name and the date, so that you can just sign in and you can just fill in those things. Now if you want the court file number, you can actually go here and give the court file number. Let's see, this one is RC12345. Now what I'm going to do is after I hit the save, I'll do the exact same thing, which is like, and by the way, it remembers. So if I just go back and say LATB, it remembers the same form, it remembers all your settings. So if I now do the download, I should see a lot more filled in. Like I know it should now fill in the file number and the rental unit, your address, and the respondent's address, and then you can just take it away and fill in a few more of the details, and then you're ready to basically sign. If it's the opposite, like where you're representing a tenant and let's say these are landlords, I'm just going to change this. Let's say Fred was your tenant. Let me make them landlords. So I'll make landlord Emma Brown, and I'll also make Richard, her husband, as well, a landlord. Do that. Now I can do a few tenant forms. So if I go back to court forms, now to LATB, let's say this one is a tenant form that I'm going to just choose. Let's say it's this one. So this time you need to say, hey, my client, who is basically Fred Brown, is a tenant, right? And if I download, now it'll do the opposite, where it'll basically take his information and put it here. And now under the respondent, it'll basically put Emma and Richard, as the landlords. So it'll do the opposite. So a couple of things. First thing, in settings, you need to set yourself as BC. Then when you create matters, you need to add additional parties. You need to add who is the opposite party. So you can click on add party and you can add joint retainers and landlords and tenants. You can add all that stuff. So once you add that, you'll be able to basically fill the form. So you need to give who's the landlords. So basically you fill the opposing party, not yourself. Like if you are the tenant, and if you have more, like let's say it's two tenants filing for two, you can do that as well. So let me just bring in another Brown here. Let's say Adam. Let's say Hudson Brown is another tenant. And if you do that, what the software will do is it'll merge all four into the form. So as you see now, if I go here and just say, hey, I'm doing the tenant form where I am the tenant and Hudson Brown is a co-tenant and Emma and Richard are the landlords. And if I now build a form, you'll see now it'll fill in all that information as well. So there you go. That's your stuff. That's your address. Then Hudson's is your second applicant. Obviously, I didn't change his address, so that's why it just gave whatever was there in the software. Emma is here, Richard is here, and all you need to do is actually just fill in a few more details and sign. So we can fill a fair amount of stuff in these forms. So this is our early first cut at British Columbia forms. We plan to introduce a lot more small claims and stuff like that, the way we have done it for Newfoundland, Ontario, and Nova Scotia. So we're going to bring it across Canada. So thanks to all the British Columbia lawyers who have helped us build this. This is our first step, and you'll only see more of this coming. Thank you.